Why does Chicago Airport have 8 runways? Did you know that Chicago Airport, O'Hare, has 8 runways for airplane landing and takeoff? If you've ever gazed out the window on approach to Chicago O'Hare International Airport, you'd probably be surprised by the long, gleaming runways mapped across the landscape. This unusual configuration begs the question, why does O'Hare need so many runways? Not that it's the busiest airport. Of course, that title goes to Atlanta. And there are others like Dubai and Dallas-Fort Worth. So what's the need for 8 long runways? Let's find out. O'Hare is a major international airport serving Chicago, and it covers about 7,627 acres in the northwest metropolitan area of the city. Unlike some of its international counterparts that prioritize large-sized planes traversing vast distances, O'Hare caters to smaller airplanes and is the hub for domestic flights. But that's not the best part. Beyond the size of aircraft and the use of its runways, there are several other factors that have warranted the need for 8 long runways in the Chicago airport. But before we dive into these fascinating secrets, let's talk about how these 8 runways came to be. O'Hare's 8 runway story isn't just about sheer quantity, but it's also a tale of strategic evolution. Over the past years, O'Hare runways have seen a few changes. And since the airport is located outside the city, space at O'Hare was not a problem. O'Hare's initial 7 runways occupied a huge area and were aligned at several different orientations to help with operations in varying wind conditions. While that seemed like a clever way to maximize space, it actually created bottlenecks. And as airport traffic increased, it limited the number of runways that could be used simultaneously. This was because all but one of the 7 runways intersected, meaning they could not be used at the same time, consequently limiting overall operations and leading to a lot of congestion and frustration. To address this, O'Hare went through a major renovation project that transformed the runway layout into a more streamlined configuration. This changed the runway patterns to offer a much more efficient setup of 6 parallel runways and 2 additional crosswind runways. And although there were several legal and financial battles, the redesign was finally completed in 2021. This change helped to offer greater flexibility and efficiency for takeoffs and landings, more like redesigning a highway intersection into a series of well-defined lanes, each dedicated to smooth traffic flow. Now that we know how Chicago Airport ended up with 8 runways, let's see the different factors that led to the multi-runway idea. First, the high amount of traffic at the airport. Imagine having 2 or 3 runways with multiple airplanes wanting to land at the same time. That's essentially what O'Hare would face with fewer runways. Unlike airports that specialize in a handful of long-haul flights with large airplanes, O'Hare thrives on a constant stream of domestic flights, and these smaller planes require more frequent takeoffs and landings, placing a significant strain on runway capacity. Think of it like this. With 8 runways, O'Hare operates like a multi-lane highway, efficiently managing a high volume of air traffic. This reduces delays, keeps things running smoothly, and ensures a less stressful experience for both passengers and air traffic controllers. Another factor is the change in weather condition. Chicago wouldn't be the windy city for nothing. Airplanes, for all their marvels of technology, have a weakness, and it's usually better to take off and land against the wind for safety and efficiency. Thankfully, O'Hare's 8 runways offer a variety of orientations. Its runways are strategically positioned along its cardinal directions, and this allows the airport to remain operational in a wide range of wind conditions. Also, with several options at their disposal, air traffic controllers can choose the runways most aligned with the prevailing wind, minimizing delays and keeping safety paramount. It's important to note that O'Hare isn't the only American airport with multiple runways. Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport in Atlanta also has 5 efficient runways, and holds the crown for the world's busiest passenger airport. Atlanta's 5 runways operate in a highly efficient parallel configuration, all lined in an east-west direction. This allows for a smooth flow of arrivals and departures, minimizing the chance of bottlenecks that affect airports with intersecting runways. With so much space available, planes can take off and land without getting in each other's way. Another factor tipping the scales in Atlanta's favor is the city's predictable wind patterns. Unlike Chicago's windy reputation, Atlanta experiences a more consistent breeze. This means that with careful scheduling and runway utilization, the airport can keep most runways operational most of the time. It's just like having a favorable current that airplanes can always take advantage of, maximizing runway usage. However, Atlanta's 5-runway strategy isn't without its limitations. And unlike that of Chicago, it might not be sufficient to cater to future uncertainties. For instance, the ever-growing aviation industry and the potential for larger, next-generation aircraft could put a strain on the current capacity. So while Atlanta's system is efficient now, future growth might necessitate an expansion. But as they say, different strokes for different folks. What works for Atlanta Airport may not work for Chicago. Imagine O'Hare with just 5 runways, all lined in a single direction. A strong headwind blowing in that direction could create a major bottleneck, forcing planes to hold and wait for their turn. Atlanta, on the other hand, experiences less dramatic wind variations, allowing them to operate efficiently with a smaller number of runways. On the grand scale of things, it's safe to say that irrespective of the number of runways that it has, O'Hare still doesn't compare to large airports in terms of passenger volume. At first glance, the number of runways at an airport might seem like a straightforward indicator of its size and passenger volume. But a closer look reveals a fascinating interplay between runway configuration, traffic type, and geographical location. For example, Dubai International Airport only has 2 runways. But despite this minimal number of runways, the airport still handles impressive numbers of passengers and goods. Dubai takes the crown when it comes to sheer passenger numbers, and it consistently ranks among the busiest airports globally for international traffic, acting as a major hub for connecting flights across continents. The airport has its focus on large, long-haul flights like Emirates and A380 airlines, carrying a higher average number of passengers per plane. These airplanes efficiently transport a large number of passengers across vast distances, which means airports like Dubai will have larger passenger numbers compared to smaller airports like O'Hare. So, how do 2 airports with such contrasting runway numbers handle their respective traffic volumes? Well, it's simple. O'Hare, with its 8 east-west runways, operates like a multi-lane highway which allows for a smooth flow of smaller planes taking off and landing frequently. Dubai, on the other hand, with its 2 runways, utilizes a different strategy. Since it caters primarily to larger airlines that require more space for takeoff and landing, 2 well-maintained runways actually does suffice. Furthermore, Dubai enjoys a more predictable climate with less wind interference, allowing for efficient runway utilization. Geographical location also plays a crucial role in shaping an airport's traffic patterns. Dubai's strategic position as a global hub makes it a natural choice for long-haul connections. Airlines like Emirates capitalize on this, establishing Dubai as a major stopover point for flights between Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia. And this strategic positioning drives the need for long-haul flights with large passenger capacities. In contrast, Chicago's central location within the US makes it a hub for domestic flights, facilitating shorter trips within the country. Airlines like United and American Airlines utilize O'Hare as a central spoke in their domestic networks. So this focus on shorter distances with smaller aircraft translates into a higher number of aircraft movements compared to Dubai. A comparison of O'Hare and Dubai airports highlights the complexity of airport operations. While the number of runways might seem like a sole indicator of size, it's just one piece of the puzzle. The type of traffic, geographical location, and even weather patterns all play a role in shaping an airport's unique identity. O'Hare, with its 8-lane highway in the sky, caters to a bustling domestic network with a constant stream of smaller planes. And Dubai, on the other hand, utilizes its 2 strategically positioned runways to serve as a global hub for long-haul flights with large passenger capacities. Plus, O'Hare doesn't actually use all 8 runways simultaneously. Most of the time, 5 runways are typically enough to handle peak traffic efficiently. But while having more runways than actively needed might seem counterintuitive, it provides crucial flexibility. It's like having extra lanes that you don't always need, but they come in handy during unexpected traffic or maintenance closures. No doubt, Chicago Airport has its limitation, even with its 8 long runways. For instance, one might expect that 8 runways equate to an elimination of delays. After all, with so many options, shouldn't planes be able to take off and land with clockwork precision? Unfortunately, the reality of air traffic control hits differently, because even with 8 runways, a multitude of factors can disrupt these operations, leading to delays. Bad weather is one good example, as well as the limitation on the number of planes that can safely land and take off per hour. Similarly, while 8 runways offer a sense of abundance, it's important to remember that these runways are not identical. Some runways are longer and more robust, designed to handle the weight and wingspan of large airplanes like the Boeing 747. Others are shorter and more suited for the nimble maneuvering of small regional planes. Now, this difference in size and capability creates a hierarchy among the runways, with some catering to specific types of aircraft. Additionally, the runway alignments play a crucial role. If the Chicago wind is at play, or if it's not cooperating and blowing directly across the runway, all 8 might not be usable at peak efficiency. And of course, maintaining 8 runways might be a lot of work, requiring significant resources and space. From the constant upkeep of the runway surfaces to complex lighting systems that guide planes during takeoff and landings, the cost of keeping O'Hare operational is substantial. Also, remember that while runways might seem like the ultimate solution for delays, more runways can sometimes lead to increased complexity in air traffic control. Imagine juggling 8 lanes of moving planes compared to 5. It definitely requires a well-controlled system to avoid confusion and maintain safety. However, despite all these limitations, O'Hare is resting on its laurels. Improvements in air traffic control technology are constantly being explored, with the aim of utilizing airspace more efficiently and minimizing delays. And all of these could lead to better takeoff and landing for airplanes in the coming years. Simply put, O'Hare's 8 runways are like a perfect plan for the future. The aviation industry is dynamic, constantly evolving with new technologies and aircraft. So having 8 runways provides a buffer for potential growth in air traffic. These runways offer extra capacity to accommodate potential increases in passenger numbers or the introduction of larger, next-generation aircraft. It's more like a future-proof system, anticipating the ever-changing needs of the industry.